come on here to address what's going on here. I did already make a daily upload on my channel today, so be sure to go check that out. It does kind of tie in with the topic I'm going to be discussing live right now, and that is, of course, Tim Walz, what's going on up there in Minnesota, Minneapolis, etc., etc. We have new details that have emerged now over the Trump-Tim Walz phone call. I'm calling this a peace deal because it seems like this country's at war, and it seems like it's the Democrats, of course, that are the ones most content to openly declare as such. They believe they're on some sort of a holy mission when it comes to being at war against this Trump administration and its immigration policies, the mass deportations that we were promised. Remember, we were promised. I want you to remember that as I continue on in this video. We were promised these mass deportations by the Trump administration, and what we're watching happen now, in my opinion, and I think it's playing out this way to prove it, to prove my opinion right, that is, we're watching the Trump administration slowly retreat on that promise. They're slowly surrendering the immigration reform policies that they promised us. And they're doing it in examples like what we saw yesterday, where I went live to cover how the border director, Greg Bovino, was ousted from his position, basically. And I need to do a little more research on that. I haven't been able to confirm the reports of Nick Sortor, the independent journalist on X, but Nick Sortor was defying the mainstream media's narrative, and especially the White House's narrative, on Greg Bovino. Of course, they were saying that Greg Bovino, the mainstream media was saying Greg Bovino had been demoted. The White House was saying, no, we're just relocating him back to his home state of California, and he might possibly retire. Retirement usually is an indicator of being soft fired. And what this really ties into, and what I said yesterday on my live stream, of course, covering this Greg Bovino story, is it all ties into the Trump administration looking to clean up their image heading into the midterm elections at the end of this year. And this is entirely their fault. The reason why things are spiraling out of control, the reason why things are looking so bad, is because they haven't done a good job controlling the messaging. And I'm going to cover that in a little bit here on this live stream. But that's exactly what's happening. It's the midterms. The midterms are coming up, and the Trump administration, Trump himself, no doubt, is receiving numerous phone calls from congressmen and congresswomen who are Republican congressmen and women, and they're probably calling him and saying, we are going to get annihilated if you continue with these ICE operations in our cities. We're going to get destroyed in the midterms. We're already receiving phone calls about it. Something has to be done. You have to stop this. And that's what's happening. And what we saw with this Tim Walz peace deal, for instance, here's the details that have emerged. Apparently, President Donald Trump has agreed to it's a peace deal. Like I said, this is a peace deal that we are seeing. And I'm calling it that because we're at war. The Democrats openly say they're at war against ICE. They call it the Gestapo. They're at war against President Donald Trump's immigration reform. And so there's no ifs, ands, or buts about this. There's no way to dance around the facts. And the facts are, this is a peace deal that our president has made with a governor of a Democrat state who openly allows sanctuary cities and openly allows illegal immigrants to hide in his cities and state. That's what this is. Here are the details that have emerged as a result of that. I see viewers are starting to come in. Please, if you're a second-time or third-time viewer, be sure to leave a like on this stream. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Feel free to chat down below. I tend to monologue here, but I will read some chats if they say smart. If you guys say smart things, I'll address that. If you guys say stupid stuff, I'll just ignore it. But yeah, please be sure to like the stream. It truly helps with the algorithm, which already hates me as it is for being a conservative, of course. Now, the details. Tim Walz insisted on this phone call, apparently, to President Donald Trump, that he is demanding impartial investigations into the ICE officer shooting. That, of course, is the one dealing with the Alex Pretty incident. I've already covered how I feel about Alex Pretty here on this channel. I think you're a cucked, soft Republican, in all honesty, if you're standing up for Alex Pretty. You know, what Alex Pretty was doing was not protesting. Alex Pretty was an agitator. He was harassing ICE, he was following them around the city, and he was impeding law enforcement. Protesting is when you make a fancy little picket and you go stand on the sidewalk outside of a government building and you scream about how dissatisfied you are. That's what a legal protest is. Alex Pretty wasn't doing that. He strapped a sidearm to his leg, shoved it in his pants, and he went out and decided to agitate ICE. That's what he did. He ran out into the middle of the street. He impeded law enforcement who were giving legal and lawful commands. He resisted arrest while he had a sidearm on him that he was not at the time legally carrying because he did not have the proper documents on him. And it was made known in the chaos that he had the gun. The ICE agents shouted that out. As a result of that, as a result of him holding his black cell phone, even though he may have been disarmed by one ICE agent, very clearly, and other ones didn't notice that, and they shot him. To that I say, fucking good. Fucking good. And let it be a lesson to anybody else thinking about doing something similar. The Trump administration should be doing this. They should be dealing the heaviest hand possible on these agitators. It's time to stop playing softball with these people. It's time. It's time to stop that. And Alex Preddy got ultimately what he fucking deserved. That's my stance on Alex Preddy. And if you're a cucked Republican and you disagree with that, you're part of the problem. You're very likely a free love boomer bitch, and you need to fucking grow up and realize we're in the real world, not a fantasy movie. So, I see comments are coming in. Let's see here. Agitating doesn't justify. Yes, it does. 100% it does, hotel corner chair. It does. It absolutely does. He threw himself into that situation. He got what he deserved. Do you know why that doesn't happen to me? It's because I don't throw myself into those situations. It's very simple to avoid that. It's actually, believe it or not, it's very easy to make sure that you don't find yourself in that situation. It's called go to work, go home, live your normal life, and don't agitate. Don't harass law enforcement. Don't impede them. Don't resist arrest while carrying a gun. Very easy. I mean, it's so simple. It's so fucking simple. Anyways, so impartial investigations into the ICE officer shootings. That was Tim Walz's first demand to President Donald Trump on the phone call. And apparently Trump agreed to that. So we're going to get the impartial investigations. Now, what people don't understand about this, how this investigation will very likely turn out, if there's any faith to be had at all in the Trump DOJ, which I would argue maybe there isn't. But what we have here is not what people argue is correct, right? You're going to have a bunch of pussies down here in the chat. They're talking about Alex Preddy was a good man. He was a nurse and he went on hikes and he loved women. And I mean, he was one of us. He's an American. And what happened to him could happen to you next. Don't you see? So fucking stupid. And honestly, it doesn't matter what's correct. When it comes to law enforcement, when it comes to intense, chaotic situations like that are caused by agitators, all that matters is what was reasonable. People don't understand this. They acted well within reason. He had a gun. He impeded law enforcement. He resisted arrest. He was holding something in his hand that looked like a gun, even though it was his cell phone, and they acted reasonably. There was no way in the 3 seconds that this all unfolded that the ICE agents could have possibly been coordinated enough while they were dealing with a guy resisting arrest who was strapped with a gun to have perfectly executed on, oh, he has a gun, oh, he's disarmed now, arrest him. It didn't play out that way. It played out very reasonably nonetheless. If you're an ICE agent and you hear somebody resisting arrest has a gun, you hear that called out by one of your fellow officers, you take action. It's your life or theirs. That's how that works. Nevertheless, impartial investigations into the ICE officer shootings has been demanded by Tim Walz. Trump has agreed to it. So Trump is kind of cucked out already. So they removed the gun, then killed him. Yeah, that's exactly what they did. That's how it appears that they did. We're still getting new video footage on that. Coop sideburns, but that does seem to be how it played out, and technically that will be observed as reasonable force because there's no way in the split seconds that this was unfolding that they could have possibly coordinated perfectly on that. The proper thing for somebody like Alex Preddy to have done would have been to stand on the sidewalk, voice his displeasure, continue recording as is his lawful right, and not impede law enforcement, not run out into the middle of the street to try to stop them. They are federal law enforcement agents. He had no right to do it, and he resisted arrest, which ultimately led to his death. It's not tragic, it's expected, and it happened correctly. That's what I argue. Now, the second thing Tim Walz demanded on his phone call with President Donald Trump, as reports are coming in on this, was a swift reduction of federal ICE officers and Border Patrol agents in the state. And yet again, it seems like President Donald Trump is happy to grant this. And this ties in once again with the fact that we are approaching the midterms. The midterms are this year, and the Trump administration is going to cuck out just like they did in their first term. They were so worried about the midterms back in 2017 that they wound up doing something similar actually with Tom Homan, who is now actually overseeing the operations in Minneapolis. He's been sent there in place of Greg Bovino, it seems. And Tom Homan's a trooper. I love him. I love his personality. I love his attitude. Nevertheless, when I think of Tom Homan and Trump working together, I think about the Family Separations Act back in the first term. How controversial that was. I covered this on my last live stream, by the way. Obama was the one who created the cages and was originally throwing children in them. To that I say, by the way, fucking good. Get them all the fuck out of our country. I had no criticisms of Obama over that. I had no criticisms over Trump continuing that trend. But of course, when Trump got into office, now of course it's a Republican back then, now the Democrats have to all of a sudden pretend that this is disgusting, even though Obama had been doing it in his second term the entire time, right? And so you have Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the dumbest bimbo politician, perhaps maybe not as dumb as what's her name, Jasmine Crockett, but close. They're both pretty stupid. And she was a loudmouth about it. And so they put Tom Homan in front of them. They were grilling him all throughout 2016 and 2017. And he said, yeah, that's how we do it. That's how it happens. If a parent's here illegally, they're technically a criminal, technically. And people always say it's a misdemeanor. It's a misdemeanor. They're doing something illegal. They're not supposed to be in this country. And if you get arrested and you have children, guess what? You get separated from them. That's how it works. You know how to not get separated from your kids? Don't be in this country illegally with them. Stay where you belong. It's so simple. Nevertheless, back then, the Trump administration, they were concerned about midterms. Oh, it's 2017. This looks terrible. We're throwing kids in cages. We got to create the Family Separations Act. They cave. Trump caves. And what happens? Republicans get annihilated in the midterms in 2017. And fast forward 2 years beyond that, and we have one of the worst immigration years in Trump's presidency in 2019. We had an insane amount of border crossing attempts. They caved, they failed, they lost the midterms, and they continued to fail. And now you fast forward to the second term, Trump is making all of the same mistakes. All of them. All of them. And he's agreeing now over the phone on this call, these details have emerged, to reducing federal ICE officers and Border Patrol agents in the state of Minnesota. What he should have been doing here, and I'm going to cover this a little bit later as well in the stream, he should have invoked the Insurrection Act. That's what should have been happening here. He's threatened it several times now. It doesn't even carry weight anymore because he threatens it and never does it. The proper thing for him to have done, he should have invoked the Insurrection Act. But we have an old Trump. He's tired. He's old. He's centered. He's around all the wrong people. They're advising him incorrectly, and this is what we're getting. And he's caving. This is a complete capitulation to Democrats. Now, thirdly, what Tim Walz also demanded on his phone call with President Donald Trump. But bear in mind, he demanded. These were demands. These were like conditions being set from a Democrat governor to the President of the United States. That's how cucked Republicans are. Mind you, they have control of the Senate, Congress, Supreme Court, and the executive branch right now. They have control of everything. Yet here they are caving to Democrats, which is what they do best. Trump was not supposed to be this guy. Trump was supposed to be the guy that didn't do this. And here we are in this situation now. He's starting to look like just any other Republican. So let me address some comments before I hit this third and final condition from Tim Walz here. I see we got a bunch of people commenting here. I'll read any comments that are actually worth my time. Go watch the Midas Touch podcast. They have all the evidence. I've seen Midas Touch. I'm not opposed to watching. I consider them op, obviously. They're an op to the Republic. I'm not a liberal, okay? My IQ is just a little too high for that. As you'll notice, I don't have blue hair. I'm not grossly overweight. I have pure skin, very fair, pure, beautiful skin. No tattoos because I'm not a disgusting LGBTQ, gender confused, overweight slob, right? So I'm not a liberal. I don't spend too much time watching liberals, but I'll watch I love the Young Turks, actually. I gotta be honest with you. If I'm gonna watch an op YouTube channel, it's gonna be the Young Turks. They bring the charisma, they're funny, and I appreciate their perspective at the very least. I'll occasionally watch David Pakman. I think he's a complete soy, but he does put on a very good produced show. And it's fun to watch him really. He's one of those ones that really crafts that new mainstream media narrative that the liberal left loves. It's like this new mainstream media narrative that you see like Bryan Cranston and David Pakman craft. It's so funny. To me, it's like humor. It's like fanfic. It's liberal fanfic. But I do like to see their thought processes. So I check out David Pakman once in a while. And Midas Touch I've watched before too. I'm not a huge fan though. Young Turks is where it's at for me if I'm gonna watch Ops. But yeah, that's a horrible logic. Your ancestors came, stole land. Oh god, the stole land thing again. Tactical Mayo. We purchased most of the land, and the rest of it we conquered, and that's our right to do so. That's how it works. That's how the world works. Read a history book once in a while, please. I beg you. Even MAGA knows Trump would lose to what? We could sell the Trump people to fix our trade agreements. Interesting suggestion. I think that's unethical, but if you insist. Obama in 2010, it's okay with us Democrats. I'm missing out on some of the chat convo here, but I make 85 to 90,000 years of surgical tech, and I am still living Yeah, man. Dude, Johnny D, listen. I've covered this before. People are calling, I've seen some comments come in, they're calling me a Trump bootlicker. Man, you just haven't watched my videos. You just don't understand. Far from it. I am so critical of Trump. I did vote for him. I mean, can you imagine? This country would look way worse with Kamala Harris, but at this point, it's almost just cliche to say that, right? I'm done voting for weak Republicans, cucked Republicans, the lesser of two evils. And it's like, what are we actually getting out of this guy? What are we getting out of this guy? And Democrats always like to rub that into. They're like, see, they're starting to see the light. No, you don't understand. I'm mad at Trump because he's not going far enough. I want more. I want more deportations. I want more ICE agents. If it were up to me, I would love to see Trump impose martial law in Minneapolis, impose a curfew, and then go door to door with ICE agents backed by the National Guard, flood the streets with soldiers, go door to door and check the papers. Anybody who doesn't have legal citizenship paperwork, instantly arrested, rounded up, thrown in alligator Alcatraz. A judge comes right to their cell, does a little mini hearing right as they're sitting in their cell in alligator Alcatraz being stung by mosquitoes. No paperwork? Oh, you're deported. Oh, your country won't take you? That's a shame. We'll have to find a new one for you to live in, but not here. That's what I would like to see. That's what I would like to see personally. Get them out. Get them all out of this country. Trump's just not going far enough. So don't sit here and think 1 second that when we criticize Trump, we're seeing the light. We want more, and we're not getting it. That's the real problem. Anyways, the third and final detail. Yes, says Thomas Knapp. Hell yes. Listen, I see we got a lot of viewers. Be sure to like the stream if you're agreeing with the messaging here. This channel is for red-blooded patriots. This channel is for people who care about America, want to see America put first, and understand a key concept here that's on topic with this stream. America is for Americans. It's not for Somalians. It's not for people from third world countries who add no value to this country. It's for Americans who were born here to legal parents. That's what America's for. Be sure to like the stream if you agree with that. Subscribe to the channel for more content like this as well. Check out my videos. I posted a video earlier today about Tim Walz. You'll want to see that too. He literally changed the state flag, the Minnesota state flag, to resemble the Somali one. I mean, these people are traitors. And this is what Tim Walz demanded on this phone call, the third and final one. Gee, I wonder how this is going to play out. Take a listen to this. He demanded, not only did he demand impartial investigations into the ICE officer shootings over people like Renee Good and Alex Preddy, which no one gives a flying fuck about, okay? Those were waste of space. That's what they were. They were a waste of space. And they decided to sacrifice themselves for illegal immigrants and literally pirates, Somali pirates, who don't give a shit about them. You don't see Somalians rioting in the streets over the death of Renee Good or Alex Preddy, do you? Do you? Ask yourself why that is. But he demanded that. Trump agreed. Tim Walz then demanded a swift reduction of federal ICE officers and Border Patrol agents in the state of Minnesota. Trump agreed, according to reports. And finally, he demanded an end to what he called the campaign of retribution against him by Trump and by the Trump administration and DOJ. And guess what? According to reports, Trump has agreed to that too. Gee, it's almost as if the Democrats somehow, despite being a minority party, are getting their own way. Trump's agreed to all of these terms in exchange for Walz, by the way. This was Trump's condition. He wants Tim Walz to allow ICE to access the prisons and jails in his state to pick up the illegal immigrants in the state prison systems there. The worst of the worst, they call it, right? And this is kind of the compromise that this Trump administration is going to lean very heavily on now when it comes to their immigration policies, because rounding up all the illegal immigrants out of this country was never going to be possible in a 4-year time frame. And I never voted for Trump thinking that way, of course. But rounding them all up wasn't going to be possible because there's just too many of them. You can't get it done in 4 years. You'll tank our GDP in the short and midterm, in all honesty, if you deport all, what is it, probably 22 million of them. And so it's not possible. And so Trump's been leaning heavily on this worst of the worst. And on top of that, we've seen Trump soften his stance on immigration pretty much 6 months into his administration this term. I mean, it started with the H-1B visas, the Chinese students to keep our colleges in business. You know, those qualified Indians that eat cow shit for dinner, literally. They think it's delicious. They throw their trash in their rivers. But somehow they're more qualified than us Americans, so they get to come here and take our jobs. Trump's in favor of that. Trump's in favor of Chinese students, a good percentage of them, not all, but somewhat amount of them wind up being actual spies. This has been proven. There's reports on this. He wants them in our country to help keep our colleges in business because without them, apparently, our institutionalized education system would fail. And that should really tell you something. Hey, Keystone Liberty, 1776. This is a loyal viewer right here. I appreciate you, man. I'll read his comment. It's worth it. You get a bunch of these people down here. They don't know what gender they are, and they're telling me, oh, you're a Trump bootlicker. Keystone Liberty, 1776. The United States need to have yes, Keystone, I said that last stream. 20-year immigration, visa, refuge, and asylum moratorium. We need to shut our border down for 20 years. We really do. That is completely facts. Yeshua loves the world. You're not a true American. Natives are true American. No, they're not. We literally took their land. Natives are pretty much inconsequential nowadays. They pretty much don't exist. They only exist. Native Americans only exist because we allow them to. Okay? We could have literally eradicated them. And that's how it works when you're a European. You conquer the world. That's conquest. That's what that is. If you don't like that, go fuck yourself. I'm a true American because I was born here to parents that were born here in this country, and my parents' parents were born here in this country as well. That makes me an American. And this country is for people just like me. In fact, people like me contribute the most to this country. We're the most beneficial. People like Somalians, Ilhan Omar, who I'm going to cover in a little bit here, they contribute nothing. We need to get them all the fuck out. We should be revoking citizenship from some of these people. Amen, sir, says Thomas Knapp. Appreciate you, man. Hardcore dude, nice. Hey, that's what I am. I'm just here to be an edgelord. Okay. The worst of the worst. This is the point I wanted to harp on here, right? So we've gotten, the conditions were Trump, impartial investigations into the ICE officer shooting, swift reduction of federal ICE officers in Minnesota, and an end to the campaign of retribution and very likely DOJ investigations into Tim Walz. These were Tim Walz's conditions of surrender to the Trump administration. Trump apparently, according to reports, I got to emphasize that this is not completely confirmed yet, to my knowledge, but Trump apparently agreed to all of those terms in outrageous fashion. Trump then said, well, here's my conditions. Allow us access to your state prisons. In my opinion, by the way, the federal government shouldn't need permission to access a state prison when it's housing illegal immigrants. This is another one right here that just really bothers me. Invoke the Insurrection Act, declare martial law, and if the prisons of the state of Minnesota won't let ICE agents in there to round up illegal immigrants, kick the fucking door down and round them up anyway. Like this, the fate of our nation is at stake here with this stuff. And we're playing softball still as Republicans. Democrats don't play softball. We got to see how they played back during the Biden regime. They don't respect the Constitution. They don't play by the same virtues. And if you're playing by rules to a game that Democrats aren't playing, you're going to lose every time, which is how we're in the position we're in now, where Trump's the president, the Congress is Republican majority, Senate's Republican majority, Supreme Court's Republican majority, and yet the Democrats are literally pulling the wool over Trump's eyes and beating him as a minority political power. That's what happens when you play by virtuous rules. It needs to stop. You either play to win or you lose. And so apparently Tim Walz is going to grant him this permission. And what this really means, like I'm saying, is this is the worst of the worst narrative. And this is how Trump's going to use this as the excuse. Well, we want to deport people out of this country, but it's got to be the worst of the worst. And he's already, hold on, who said that? Corn Plum 80? I'm not a Jew. I'm not Jewish at all. I am German. I'm German, very likely Russian, and I'm British. And I have some Irish in me. Jew. Don't even. I'm not Jewish. Anyways, what we're seeing out of this, and this is how Trump is going to play, he's leaning into this for midterms. We're only going to get rid of the worst of the worst. Trump said this, by the way. He literally said, I told them you got to ease up on the farmers. You got to ease up on the hotel industry, the service industry, our big, beautiful workers on the farms, picking the fruits. And it's like, no, that's not what we voted for. It's not what we voted for at all. We voted for all deportations, all of them. And we're not going to get that. It's already over. Mass deportations has come to an end, and it officially has died with this new phone call deal with Tim Walz. Greg Beville's pulled out, very likely being removed, fired probably. Tom Homan's in. That's great on its own technically, but you know, Tom Homan and Trump completely capitulated to the Democrats in Trump's first term. That's going to happen right here. It's happening right now. And the Republicans are going to lose the midterms anyway. And Tim Walz, he knows this. Tim Walz took a victory lap on his social media today, right? Openly stating, first of all, celebrating that Greg Bovino was pulled out. He said, oh, that's amazing. You know, that's a big celebration. Greg Bovino was a loose cannon. He wears a long jacket. It's like the Gestapo. Big cause to celebrate here. He then went on to state that it's not good enough. So it's like, you give these people an inch, they take the mile every time. Tim Walz immediately went into the whole aspect of, we want more. We demand more. We demand more. Keystone Liberty says never Vance 2028. Vance has a lot of work to do to prove himself. I'm skeptical of him. Oh yeah, they're going to lose outright. They are. They're going to lose, and they're playing as if they have a chance to win, and they shouldn't be. Thomas Gallon. I don't even. Dude, that username. Dude, shorten that username, man. My God. The dollar has gone down 10% in the last year. Yeah, well, yeah, that's to be expected though with the Trump tariffs. You support the enemies of Christ. I'm a Jew. No, I'm a born again Christian. I'm a Christian. This is a Christian nationalist channel. I literally believe our politicians should be Christian. I have a mullet right now. I used to have a mullet. My hair's gotten so long. I thought we wanted prices to go down. We do. We do. Okay. Anyways, Tim Walz's victory lap. Not only was he celebrating Greg Bovino being ousted from his city, right? Not only did he then go on to state, it's not good enough, we want more, we demand more. This is a ragtag group of untrained individuals. They're wreaking havoc on our cities. This could happen to you. We gave him the inch, he's taking the mile. But then he also goes on to make sure that he emboldens and galvanizes the low IQ, easily gaslit liberal voter base by saying, see, the protests worked. He literally stated, this is the result of what he calls, of course, peaceful demonstrations and protests. And this is the real trap that Trump has basically now initiated by apparently, at least the perception is there, of surrendering to Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota. That's really what we're seeing here. And this is the danger of this. It's a total victory for Democrats, this. There's no real way to dance around that. MAGA cheerleader accounts here on YouTube, I'm seeing, they're kind of ignoring this. They're dancing around the subject. And I'm just here to tell you, as a social and fiscal conservative who's America first, I'm an American advocate. I'm here to tell you the raw truth. This is a complete and total Democrat victory. And it's actually mind-blowing that we're living through this right now while the Republicans have so much control over the government and political power. This just should not be. There should be no conditions being set by a Democrat governor to our federal government over illegal immigration and sanctuary cities. It should be literally Trump saying, your sanctuary cities are done. They're not lawful. If you have to use Congress to pass bills, you do it. It should be working like this. But our system is so fucking broken. It's so full of corruption. It's so full of weak, spineless Republicans. And we're getting the result we're getting. These politicians are cocked. And it's looking terrible. This should not be happening. The Insurrection Act should have been revoked. It's simple. It's really simple. I left my dad at Walmart. Hang on, let me see. Joe Mama. I left my dad at Walmart here in Missouri when I went to get the car. Now they stop agents did, and he said there and harassed my dad, want to know how come he could not speak good English. Hey, deserved. Hopefully your dad has paperwork. If he doesn't, if he's not here legally, he's got to go. He's got to go. Get him out. You think too damn much. Hey, what else are you supposed to do with your brain? All right, so what I wanted to cover here. Yeah, the messaging. This is the big problem. Trump's messaging. On top of the fact that Trump is full of tactics, which is one of his biggest problems. I said this in my stream yesterday. The main problem with Trump is he's full of tactics, and a lot of his tactics are good. You read The Art of the Deal, you understand how he operates if you've read The Art of the Deal. If you're successful in life at all, you understand the good qualities about Trump. You understand the negotiations, the deal making. But the problem is it's not always appropriate to operate everything in that regard. You can't just Art of the Deal everything, especially when it comes to power. And what Trump does is he uses those tactics efficiently in a lot of ways, but then when it comes to situations like this, where you need just authority, Trump still treats it as if it's a negotiation. It shouldn't be a negotiation. Like I said, it should be as easy as invoking the Insurrection Act, establishing martial law, flooding the city that's disobeying all of the laws, and literally has politicians like Tim Walz and Mayor Jacob Frey, by the way, instructing police to not show up to calls that could be involving illegal immigrants. Right? We have videos emerging on social media of Border Patrol agents, one agent defending a hotel from being literally destroyed by agitators and rioters. And the Border Patrol agent is literally yelling, he's been there for 20, 30 minutes. He's yelling, where is the law enforcement? Where's the police? They're not there. This is treasonous, traitorous behavior from these politicians. The answer is simple, but the Trump administration doesn't want to do it. Trump is too nice. Is really what this is. But for whatever reason, he doesn't want to play by those, he doesn't want to play correctly. He doesn't want to play the game. Martial law, curfew, door to door, easy. It's so easy, and it needs to be done. Because the Democrats, they smell the blood in the water. They exploit the loopholes in the laws. They cry and whine and bitch about it because that's really all they're good for. And then they take control of the messaging. And the messaging is one of the big problems here. It really, truly is. Because I combine that with the fact that the other big problem is the cucked Republicans. I have a few of them here on this channel. They're upset about Alex Preddy. It's like, are you serious? What in the actual term mass deportations and in the actual math of that, when you realize it's at least 12 million, I think probably closer to 22 million. Did you really think it was going to be 100% peacefully carried out? Like, what kind of fantasy world are these Republicans living in who are upset over situations like Alex Preddy, a guy who brought a gun to a protest, harassed ICE, followed them around the city, agitated them, ran out into the street, impeded ICE, and resisted arrest while strapped? And Republicans want to say, oh, that's too far. That went too far. Get fucking serious with yourself. What did you think was going to happen? I mean, I think in people's minds, they hear mass deportations and they go, yeah, I support that. And I think they visualize some organized system where it's like, oh, time for illegals to leave. And in their mind, they visualize all the illegals going, okay. And they line up. They're like, I'm here illegally. Yeah, just arrest me now and deport me. It was never going to play out that way. We live in the real world. The illegals view our country as the ultimate place of existence. They will hide here. They're not going, some of them have self-deported, and people aren't aware that the Trump administration's offering close to $3,000 for people to self-deport. Some of them took up on that, but most of them won't. And most of them will resist the efforts to be deported, some of them violently so. It was always going to play out this way. Worse yet, you have idiotic white people who for some reason think that they need to stand up for these illegal immigrant minorities, and they put their lives on the line. This was just how it was always going to play out. This is all just part of the process. It's like unreal. But because of that, combined with the fact that the Trump administration doesn't have a good grasp on messaging, mainly because the mainstream media and boomers that watch that shit still buy into everything they're told on the news, now mass deportation popularity is declining. You go back in time just 7-8 years ago, and 64% of people, Americans in general, regardless of party affiliation, were in favor of mass deportations. This was Harry Enton reporting on this. This was a CNN polling report. 64%, not even a year ago. Now you have Alex Preddy, you have poor messaging, you have poor containment of the messaging, you have a poor response time to that. They didn't get ahead of the narrative, and now it's all of a sudden, well, American citizens are next. It's a load of bullshit, and anybody with any critical thinking capacity understands that. Let me swig some water. I do not live day to day in any sort of fear of being in that situation that Alex Preddy was in, or that stupid ditch licker Renee Good. It's never going to happen to me. I don't put myself in those situations. And even if I didn't support what ICE was doing, which I do wholeheartedly, and I think they need to go further with what they're doing, I still wouldn't put myself in that situation. You have no business following law enforcement around the town, actively trying to impede them. And I'm going to cover that in a second here too, because there's a lot of information emerging on that. The chat's going a million miles an hour right now, guys, but I'll take a look at a few comments here before I move on here, because we need to talk about what is the modern Democrat narrative now. The moderate Democrat stance has now shifted as well. I'll cover that in 1 second here, because I'm telling you, you give these people an inch, they're taking the mile every time. This is tragic what's happening right now. Trump's given up a lot of ground, and there's no reason for him to be. What do you think of Canada laughing at MAGA so openly? When it comes to Canada, honestly, it's like they're the joke, right? Like, Canada is a joke. And so I don't think Trump took it seriously at first. We should take what they're doing seriously, because Mark Carney, of course, has always loved China. This much we've known about him, except for all of the uneducated Canadian Trump derangement syndrome voters. But there's absolutely no way we can allow Canada to make not just trade deals with China, by the way, but they've made national security deals, or at least they attempted to make national security deals with China. That's disgusting. And we need to do something about that one. So, as far as Canada being some sort of respectable country, absolutely not. But as far as Mark Carney being a spiteful, deranged little man who will do anything to stand up to Trump because he realizes he can't play the game against Trump at all from a position of power, and running into the hands of China, that we do need to take seriously. You know what I'm saying? We are American citizens, have been American citizens for 30 years. This is what I'm trying to get at. They would jump. Oh, you're the guy with the dad in Missouri. Well, listen, man. Don't be mad at what's happening now. Be mad at why this is happening. And why this is happening is largely in part due to the Biden administration flooding this nation intentionally with illegal immigrants. People like you, people like your parents who may have came here legally and observed the legal process, Joe Mama, they're the ones that should be mad at Biden for this. Now we have to clean it up, and clean up is never pretty. Making a mess is easy. You can knock a gallon of milk off your counter and let it spill all over the floor and walk away. That's easy. Cleaning that up, that's always the hard part. It gets messy. It gets a lot messier before it's ultimately clean. You're going through a lot of paper towels, etc. And that's what's going on right now, or was what was going on until Trump surrendered to Tim Walz today. So your anger's misplaced, I think, if you're mad at the Trump administration. That's my view on that. Facts said Chai Girl 333. Thank you. Appreciate you. Thank you. 100% right, says Red Banker Company. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you. Be sure to give this stream a like if you're agreeing with this. It helps with the algorithm, which already hates me because I'm an America First Christian nationalist. I say things like I love Jesus, and the algorithm immediately demotes my positioning in the algo. Oh, we got to throttle those views. That doesn't fit the globalist agenda. He's talking about an American empire here. He wants to put Americans first. My videos, once in a while, they'll let a video go well for my channel, but most of the time, man, they throttle the fuck out of me here. So like the stream. Be sure to subscribe, turn on notifications to this channel as well, so you're notified whenever I post as well. I appreciate it. Appreciate all the support here. We got to create an American Advocates Coalition here. We got to do something. That's what I'm trying to do here. We got to do something. Now, let me get back to the monologue here. Moderate Democrats have now shifted their position. I have on my notes here. Yeah, and this is what they've shifted their position to, right? Whereas I just stated a few minutes ago, just 8 months ago, 64% of Americans were in favor, regardless of political affiliation, right? 64%, that means Democrats were lumped into that number as well. They were in favor of deporting every illegal immigrant, according to CNN. Not Fox News, CNN. That was just 8 months ago. Now you fast forward, you have a few tragedies. I use that term lightly. When you're talking about people like Renee Good, it's not a tragedy, but tragedies. And now all of a sudden you have the independents. They're not, the Trump administration didn't get ahead of the narrative. They didn't put out the right messaging. The independents are now souring on illegal immigration. You have people like Joe Rogan, right? He's a centrist leftist, really. He was for the deportations at first, but you have to understand that that's only temporary. And now you're looking at these situations, and predictably they react emotionally. And they say, this is terrible the way these people are being treated. You mean to tell me if they're in this country illegally, they get put in handcuffs and sent to Alligator Alcatraz and deported? That's terrible. I didn't expect it to go this way. They live in a fantasy world. Like I stated earlier, they live in a fantasy world. They thought it was going to be a simple, easy, peaceful process. as if none of them would ever resist being deported out of the country that they literally worked so hard to sneak into. But that's what's happening. And so moderate Democrats now smell blood in the water, and that's only been exponentially worsened after Trump pretty much surrendered to Tim Walz today. The moderate Democrat stance now that we're seeing emerge is not just anti-immigration, but now moderate Democrats, not extreme leftists, mind you. Moderate Democrats are now pushing for ICE to be abolished altogether. That's what's happening now. And this is what I mean. You give them an inch, they take a mile. You cannot give these people a single inch. You can't do it. You have to treat this like a battlefield. And on this battlefield currently, and because, by the way, and that's by no means advocating for violence, you have to treat this as a political battlefield. You need to play the political game because the Democrats recognize it for what it is. How many times do you go on social media and see Democrats on TikToks talking about how it's time to stop bringing protest signs to these events? It's time to start getting more serious. Democrats are the ones all on TikTok saying we're at war against ICE, the Gestapo. We're at war against these people. The Democrats already recognize it for what it is, and that's what I've said earlier when I'm talking about playing by the same rules. You have to play by the same rules, which means when it comes to these agitators, these people following ICE and harassing law enforcement, you have to crush these people. You have to crush them outright. You cannot play soft with them. They throw a rock at an ICE agent, if they get mag dumped in the face, I view that as appropriate. But see, that's the problem. And so many people are soft, and worse yet, the Trump administration now has to shift gears to optics and midterm elections. And that's it. It's like that's game over now. Mass deportations are coming to an end. So now they want to abolish ICE altogether. Soft Republicans are aiding in these efforts by literally saying it's gone too far. Alex Preddy was too far. You have all these soft Republicans. It's so bullshit. And that's where we're at. That's where we're at. I mean, what I have here, I wrote down these notes because this is my thought process on this. This is how absurd this is. When you read this out, you understand what we're dealing with here. Democrat protesters are referring to it as a war. They're not confused by the game, right? And I wrote this down. Governors like Tim Walz turn their cities into sanctuary cities, openly housing illegal aliens. They then refuse to lift the sanctuary city status and refuse to cooperate with federal law enforcement agents. Like, that in and of itself is absurd. It's literally absurd. What do you think would happen if this was 225, 230 years ago? What do you think would happen? Hold on a second. We gotta deal with this guy. This guy, Alfonso Garganta. The chats help boost the algorithm, but at some point it's excessive, man. You gotta you're getting deported. There we go. Deported. Farewell. Yeah, you can't be spamming. I don't care if you can come here and insult me once or twice. I don't care. It doesn't bother me at all. You can disagree with me in the chat civilly if you want. If you want me to respond to it, disagree civilly, I'll even answer back sometimes. You can't be spamming like that. You can't be. Deported. Easily deported. Your citizenship from American Advocates has been revoked. You're deported. Get the fuck out of my stream. Anyways. So governors like Tim Walz, they do sanctuary cities. They openly house and protect illegal immigrants. They refuse to lift sanctuary city status. They refuse to work with federal law enforcement agents. And then they instruct, this is the part that really blows my mind. They then instruct their state and city police, and we've seen this with Mayor Jacob Frey over in Minneapolis, to not help, aid, or respond to any calls regarding anything to do with possible illegal immigrants. None of the crimes. They don't want to help ICE. They're not aiding with ICE, and technically that falls under states' rights. But the imagery of this is insane. And as I was saying before I had to deport that idiot, if this was 225 years ago, how do you think an action like that being taken against our government, our country, this traitorous action of protecting people who don't belong in this country, what do you think the consequences would be for something like that? This country has gotten so soft when it comes to dealing with these treasonous traitors who are holding political power. That's really what this is. So, crazy. On top of that, they then spread their inflammatory rhetoric about ICE and deportations. It galvanizes their voter base, their low IQ voter base, who are easily gaslit, emotionally led and driven people. And they spread that rhetoric about how this is the Gestapo. You could be next. Trump's coming after everybody. Wait till you see what's happening 2 or 3 years from now. I just watched a clip of a Democrat saying that Alligator Alcatraz is like a Nazi concentration camp. And he said, minus the fact that they're not really gas chambering anybody or putting them in ovens. And then he ended that by saying, yet. And he said it seriously. This is how stupid these people are. They genuinely trick themselves into believing these false possible realities. And it's absolutely mind-blowing, but it works. And the Democrat politicians, they're the actual smart ones. They're not smart. Tim Walz is a bumbling idiot, but he's cunning. They're cunning, you know. They're conniving, cunning individuals. And they are good at strategy, far superior in strategy than Republicans are. And so they weaponize their own voter base by spreading the hateful and possibly dangerous rhetoric about how the Trump administration is imposing the modern-day Gestapo of ICE agents on these cities, and they buy into it. And so what winds up happening then? Their voter base winds up forming protests that turn to riots. They turn into riots, they turn into violent demonstrations, and the violence winds up resulting in what we now call, I don't call it this, but tragedies like Alex Pretty. And then the Democrats, these politicians, they cry about it, which makes their voter base even more angry. And eventually it makes the Republican administration at the time, like this Trump one, it makes them think, gee, this looks terrible. What will the people think? And this is how Democrats win, even from under, they're not even in a position of power. The Trump administration, like I said, Congress, Senate, Supreme Court, all Republican. Yet here we are watching the president surrender to a governor, a Democrat governor, because they play the game better. That's what we see happen all the time. And you have independents and cucked Republican voters cave, which is what we're also seeing. They're caving over Alex Pretty, a guy who ultimately got what he deserved. Are you depressed? You've been in here before, and I told you I'm a born-again Christian. I'm not depressed at all, actually. Not depressed. Angry, yes. But it's righteous indignation. Strange that you think Democrats need politicians to tell them when to mourn. Says a lot about how you view human life. Well, yeah, I view most liberals are, in my opinion, they're somewhat subhuman. They're virtue signalers. They're usually a bunch of collective narcissists who only care about the appearance of themselves. They're focused on perception. That's Special's Partisan 4130. Democrats exhibit the behavior of collective narcissism. It's all about how it looks to other people. Right. And so that's why you had people pretending that George Floyd was a hero when he was a drug addict wife beater. Right. But that's what it is. So long as you cried over George Floyd on social media, now the world knows you're a good person. That's what Democrats are. They're fucking stupid. They're narcissists. They're disgusting people usually. And they're brain dead. They're emotionally led and driven people. And so they're easily weaponized by their Democrat politicians, which is what we see play out time and time again. So, you know, even during 2022, peak Biden COVID restriction era, you didn't see Republicans getting super violent in the streets over being possibly forced to take the jab. You know, I was in a position where I was almost forced to do that. I would have just quit my job. I didn't ultimately wind up taking any of that. I'm a pure blood, thankfully. And I didn't wear the stupid face diapers. But I also didn't go out into the streets and cause violence over it. I made my opinions known. I protested it. I resisted peacefully. And that's the difference. That's the large overall difference, of course. So now, this is how sinister this gets, right? The Democrat politicians have weaponized their voter base. They've galvanized their voter base. And now what we have is a completely lackluster Trump DOJ that's bottlenecking the process, not delivering on justice, and tolerating everything. And so it emboldens the liberals even more to the point of where now we have the information emerging that there are Signal group chats filled with hundreds of Democrats, obviously, who are now following ICE agents and reporting in the Signal group chat of ICE agent whereabouts. Even worse yet, these people are so organized now that they very likely have moles in the DHS, the Department of Homeland Security. They have moles now. They have moles in very likely local city and state police offices because in these Signal group chats that were infiltrated by some Republicans, I believe Cameron Higby on Twitter, X was one of them. He was able to find out that they have the power now to run license plates to determine if it's an ICE agent. And this is what happens. And it's like, where's Kash Patel, our director of the FBI? Where is he? Well, it turns out he's doing podcasts with his Jewish girlfriend who is here pretending, despite being Jewish, she's pretending to be a country singer. And they're on podcasts now talking about how great of a relationship they have. Meanwhile, these Signal group chats exist and nothing's being done about it. They've been exposed, names have been leaked, and we're not seeing anything. Nothing. And this is what happens. And they know that they're not going to face any consequences. We're now at a point in this country where the Democrats have figured out that if you don't like a law, you can just ignore it. Excuse me. And that's dangerous. We're at a dangerous point now. These people, by the way, Renee Good was part of a group chat as well, similar to this. And I just saw information put out there today that the group chat that Renee Good was a part of is also training their people on tactics of disruption, how to properly disrupt ICE agents from making arrests. And nothing is being done about this, and nothing can be done about it because it all circles back to the fact that we're in an election season now. I see Angel 2 Boucher 17. Nothing gets done to them. Nothing gets done to them. Thank you for being an active part of this chat. I appreciate you. By the way, be sure to give this stream a like right now if you're just tuning in. Truly helps this stream perform well in the algorithm. Also subscribe to American Advocates for more content like this. Turn on notifications when you do. Nothing gets done about it, and it emboldens them. Now they have these organized groups. This is completely unacceptable. Nothing can be done about it, though, because a show of heavy force when elections are coming up in November and the Republicans are paranoid about losing power, it's over. It's game over. Mass deportations are done. We got about 8 months worth of that, and that's it. It's going to be a slow trickle from here. Trump's going to lean on the worst of the worst narrative to justify the fact that he's deporting some of them still. It's hard to criticize it. The Department of Homeland Security's put up a website already, by the way, or put up a link to their website. You can now research all the people being deported and see their criminal record. And it's like, that's good. That's transparent, but, excuse me. That's transparent, but the reason why they've actually done that is so that they can justify to you openly and publicly that they're only deporting the worst of the worst, and that's not only what we voted for. We did, in fact, vote for all of them to be deported. We're not going to get it, and this is going to be the Trump administration's excuse. Well, we just need to get the worst of the worst out. It's like, okay, well, what do you do after that? Do you just let the farmers continue to pay $3 an hour per illegal immigrant worker? Jobs that should be handed out to Americans instead? You know, us young Americans who have a harder time than ever finding employment, paying for our cost of living, our rent, our mortgage. Can't even own a home, most of us. These jobs are being taken from us, and the Trump administration won't do anything about it. Farmers, hotel industry, all should be American jobs. If the corporation, the job exists in America, it should be given to an American. And that's where we're at. That's just where we're at right now. And, you know, I wanted to say this, too. I wrote this down specifically on my notes. The resistance we see from these Democrats must be completely destroyed, and it's not going to be. And, you know, Trump, I've said this before, and I almost want to recant what I've said. I'm angry now. I feel like we've been let down. You know, we kind of have been in a lot of ways. And that leads me to what I was about to say. I've said this before. Trump, he doesn't have a job. Who? Me? I own businesses, so. Anyways, Trump, I've said this before. I've said Trump's going to be a net positive. I almost want to retract that. I view it from the lens of he's a net positive. He's better than Kamala Harris, obviously. And he has sparked a fire in a lot of young people. And so that's when I say that, that's what I mean. But one of the downsides to President Donald Trump that's becoming very obvious in this second term of his especially is he's good at tactics that rattle cages. He's good at negotiations when it comes to a sales element, but rattling cages, like I stated earlier, is not always appropriate. In cases like this, it's not appropriate. You need to rattle the cages and then follow through. You need to follow through after you've rattled the cages, everybody's fallen out of it, swoop in, take them all, deport them all, finish the objective, develop a strategy that achieves victory. Trump doesn't do that. He's only good at tactics, not strategy, and there's a difference between the two of those terms. Google it if you don't know it. And when you rattle the cages, when you stir the hornet's nest, but you don't destroy the hornet's nest, it's bad news. And hornets have a good memory, it turns out. This is an obscure nature fact I found out a couple months ago, blew my mind. Hornets can remember you for 14 days. It's pretty impressive for such a small little creature. What do you think liberals who are comparable to hornets have the memory of? They remember forever. We saw that in the Biden regime when they immediately took revenge on President Donald Trump as soon as they got power. You stir the hornet's nest. You don't destroy the nest. You don't destroy, and by that I mean, of course, it's analogous to destroying their ideology, squashing the resistance, non-violently, squashing the resistance by achieving your objective in spite of it, following through on the people's mandate. Trump won the popular vote. You want to stir the hornet's nest, this liberal hornet's nest. You stir it, but you don't destroy it. It's going to stay there, and it's going to sting you. And then it's going to sting everybody around you who supported Trump. This is bad news entirely if there's no follow-through on this. Dylan says, the party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential. If you're quoting that against the Trump administration, then you don't understand George Orwell. If you were quoting that during the Biden regime, during the dystopian society that we saw emerge from 2021 to 2023 over a glorified flu, then you understand George Orwell very well. No, the podcast wants you to think for yourself. Yes, think for yourself. I'm not a Trump bootlicker like people say. I criticize him more than ever, but I'm also not a TDSer, right? Trump entered this new year with a win, right? Venezuela, capturing Maduro. I mean, that was a beautiful public display, global display of America's power. I'm all for just seizing their oil and using it all for ourselves. I love that. I love the Monroe Doctrine. So it's like I was criticizing Trump at the end of 2025. It was downhill. And then boom, I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, we captured Maduro. Fuck Venezuela, let's take their oil. I love it. Monroe Doctrine, America first, focus on the West. Fuck China, fuck the European Union, fuck all of them. America first. But now it's like it's right back downhill. There was a little positive little hump there in the beginning of the year. It's back downhill. Surrender to Tim Walz, cave in Minnesota, ease the throttle on deportations and immigration. No bueno. Oh, looks like we had a little latency in the stream there. Still here. Anyways, that's ultimately what I wanted to say here. I finish up. You give these people an inch and they take them out. It's only going to get worse from here. And I'm going to finish it by saying this. The government now is going to be shut down at the end of this week. That's also more breaking news. And why is that? Well, it's because they can. The Democrats can do it. Now, they should be happy with this Trump surrender in Minnesota, right? He's agreed to withdraw a lot more ICE and Border Patrol agents up there, as per Tim Walz's demands. But see, Chuck Schumer is now leading the Democrats in the Senate to shut down the government over a House-passed DHS bill that will fund ICE. And so now, this week, buckle up if you voted for Trump, if you're a MAGA cheerleader, but if you voted for Trump, you're MAGA, you're America first, you voted for mass deportations, you voted for Republicans to wield power apparently under Trump and actually get some victories, buckle up. This is going to be a very, very fucking rough week for you. Because now Trump has surrendered to Tim Walz in Minnesota, giving him everything he wants. Official investigations into the shooting of Alex Pretty and Renee Good. Now Trump's agreed he's pulling out Greg Bovino. He's now pulling out ICE agents from Minnesota. He's pulling out Border Patrol agents from Minnesota. He's agreed to stop what did Tim Walz refer to it? I put it in quotes on my notes. The campaign of retribution, Tim Walz called it. Tim Walz said, you got to stop the campaign of retribution against me, Mr. President. Trump said, you know what, Tim, you're right. The lawfare won't happen, Tim. We know that there's just been copious amounts of suspicious fraud coming out of your state benefiting Somalians in their home country. Billions of dollars, Tim. You're the governor there, but if you say you weren't aware of it, then we'll stop spotlighting it on Tim. We'll stop. No problem, Tim. And we'll pull out all of our ICE agents on top of it. That's how that phone call apparently went, according to reports. Unconfirmed, but I'm not having a hard time buying it, unfortunately. But then on top of all of that, Chuck Schumer's going to lead the charge now in the Senate to shut down the government. So Trump surrenders to Tim Walz, and later on this week, our government will be shut down yet again. The Democrats will be completely claiming a victory this week. This will be one of the weakest showings that the Trump administration has had so far in this second term. That's what we're in for this week. That's what's happening. Yeah, it is. Trump, listen, taco is not a always accurate term for the reasons I stated earlier. You have to understand the art of the deal to understand how Trump operates. He's a salesman, he's a negotiator, he's a businessman. Negotiations means compromise. And so I usually don't agree with the taco term, but the problem is the art of the deal is not always appropriate. In shows of force like this, there shouldn't be negotiation. You're the president, you're the executive. You have an open rebellion in the state of Minnesota, which is turning into literally an active resistance against the federal government. And Trump did. He chickened out on that. He chickened out on the Insurrection Act is what it is. That's what should have been invoked here. He threatens it multiple times, never uses it. It's pathetic, it's weak, it's cocked. Insurrection Act should have been invoked, martial law declared. That's what should have happened. We're not getting it. My condolences to the air traffic control. Yeah, it's going to be brutal, Keystone. Any federal employee. Once again, they're not going to be paid. They're not going to be paid because the Democrat senators are outraged that ICE is getting an increase in funding, which is what needs to happen, by the way. I've advocated for that so much on this channel. We need to increase the ICE agent force 10x this year. And we need to start putting out bounties only for alive. I didn't clarify that last stream. I watched it back going, I need to clarify that. No dead bounties, but that's usually not how bounties work in our country anyway. Bounties for illegal immigrants. Capture them alive, $2,000 per capture. That leads to a deportation. That's what should be happening. But this administration, it already was having a hard time finding its balls. Now it's tucking their balls away so that the Republicans have a better chance of winning midterms, which they won't. Fund ICE. Absolutely, VD chap. If you agree with what I'm saying, see, it's all in response to defund ICE. If you agree with this messaging, like I said, be sure to give the stream a like, subscribe to this channel. I'm forming an American Advocates Coalition here. People who actually have some common sense and understand just how much is at stake in this country and why everything needs to change. And that's where we're at. Government's going to shut down. I guarantee it. I almost guarantee it. I'll 85% guarantee it. Because the trick here is there's less of a reason for the government to shut down technically after Trump agreed to Tim Walz's terms. But then again, it's the Democrats. They just want to shut down the government to defy Trump. And in doing so, they wield their power and they prevent the ICE funding from occurring. So it's a win-win for them. There's no reason for Democrats to not shut down the government. And it's like, what's going to happen? Will they nuke the filibuster this time around? No, because they play by their virtues that the Democrats don't play by. So that's where we're at. We're dealing with a cucked party. You do a good job in ICE. Thank you. Appreciate that. I've thought about it, but I own businesses in my personal life. I work multiple jobs right now. I'm setting myself up to build wealth so that I can George Soros this bitch for the Conservative Party in the future. We need George Soros-like people. We need more Elon Musks. I'll very likely never be as rich. I'll never be as rich as Elon Musk. I can say that pretty confidently. But, over the next 10 years of my life, I'm going to build some wealth here, and I'm going to start throwing around my money to influence politics in the direction I want it to go. That's what I'm working on. And we need people. I'll say this like I said last stream. I'm going to start saying this on every stream. The real problem here is there's multiple problems here at play all at once in the Republican Party. But the real problem here is how cucked the Republicans are, how corrupt our own party is, how bought and paid for they are by foreign special interests and lobbies. We need people, more good people. If you find yourself in church every Sunday, bonus, you go to church on Wednesday for prayer. You believe in God at all even. You don't go to church maybe, but you believe in God. You believe in law and order. Right? And you can't be bought. You have morals and principles that you adhere to no matter what. You need to be running for some sort of an office. We need to get back to a point in time in this country. And I understand at high levels it gets expensive. It's almost impossible. This is what's tragic. But start off at a low level. If you're young enough, go to college and get involved in political circles. Only if you're conservative, by the way. If you're a Democrat, please just get another tattoo, keep gaining weight, don't get in any sort of shape. You're beautiful as is. Dye your hair blue. Stay home. Do nothing. But if you're a conservative and you're young, go to a college, not for the education, which is a complete brainwashing, but go there and get involved in political circles. Think about a political career. We need young, strong conservatives to get into offices, or middle-aged ones. By the time I've built wealth, I'll be middle-aged. And I might get involved in politics to some degree, in some way, shape, or form. But that's what this country needs, because the current Republicans aren't cutting it, and they're not cutting it because they're bought, they're paid for by lobbies, foreign interests, etc. Big Pharma's another one, or they're corrupt and full of fraud. They're engaging in some of the same insidious activities that the Democrats are, so they can't get the job done because they're worried about retaliation. And so that's what this country needs. And I encourage anybody at all, who is feeling compelled at all to get involved. You can go for town council. You can go for school board. These are political positions. Mayor's not impossible to achieve. Lieutenant mayor. So start there. That's what I recommend for everybody, because this current political landscape is an abomination and it needs to change. Crusade 2027. Nonviolent crusade. We do not need to resort to violence. I don't believe in that. At least, not in the form of initiating it. If we ever got to a point where it's like you have to defend yourself, then that's one thing. But I don't think we need to resort to anything like crazy. I know there's always the talks about revolts and stuff, but it's like we can still win this country back, and we can do it playing the game. We just need to get better at playing the game. Play the political game the way the Democrats do. Democrat politicians, they play the game beautifully. I'm jealous of them a lot of times. And that's just because I watch the Republicans in comparison, and they're cucked. They're little spineless pussies. We just can't tolerate that anymore. I'm older than you. I'm really feeling bleak about the future. I'm sorry. Don't want to be a downer, but I see so much corruption, says Angel. Yeah, I understand, man. I'm an optimist by nature. I'm also, pragmatist in some ways. So I come on here and I criticize because I see the errors. And at times I do feel bleak about the future as well. And, I'm a young millennial. My life's really just getting started, truthfully. You know this if you're a man, by the way. It's like I don't think my life will start for another 10, 15 years. I'll be in my 40s at that point. But, I feel like I finally have a good sense of direction. And as a result, I want to be optimistic. And I see the possibilities of a great America once again. But it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of prayer. It's going to take a lot of good people to push in the right direction. So that's why I encourage people, live a good life, get politically active if possible. It's very important. The future of this country is at stake. The 2030s for America could either be fantastic, a renaissance period, or it could be a disaster. America has never been great. Tell me you're stupid without telling me you're stupid. Please, corruption exists in everything. Okay, thanks. Thanks for stating the obvious. Corruption's in everything. Wow, I didn't know that. Wow. Real insight. You should, hey, Tasteless62, please, you should do a live stream. You sound like a real brilliant guy. You should do a live stream. Put that camera on yourself. Go live after I end this one. Go live and just start speaking, man. You sound like a fucking genius. These people are so shallow because they don't have any answers. This is, by the way, Angel, this is why. Right. This is why it's important. Why I feel led to be doing what I'm doing. I hate criticizing without answers. I hate that. It's very easy to criticize. That's why I just spent the last 10 minutes of this stream talking about how people need to get more politically active. That is one of the answers. Never criticize if you don't have an answer, because otherwise you're just going to stress yourself out and you're never going to come to any sort of conclusions. We do need answers. The answers are obvious, though. I spent my life growing up in church centered around people who I thought were good people. And I remember as I got older, I remember thinking, even back when I was like a young teenager, I remember thinking, gee, this country's really going to shit. Why are people in my church running for office? Why aren't they doing something politically? Granted, my pastor, I will give him credit for, he did get politically active, but a lot of the people in my church didn't. And I think that's a shame. Not everyone needs to be politically active. Not everybody needs to run for office. Obviously, most people shouldn't. But it's like at some point, it's like, why do we wind up in this situation where only the worst people seem to run for office? And it's like, it's obvious. It's because they're power hungry. It attracts power hungry people. But, it doesn't mean that good people can't or shouldn't run. Good people should be running. America first. Absolutely. Absolutely. Smile. It helps. Get money out of Congress. I agree with that. Special Spartan 4130. I think I disagree with you earlier. But yes, listen. Obtaining a position in Congress or Senate shouldn't cost a fortune. And I think that's bipartisan. That should be a bipartisan stance. I think we can all agree on that. The fact that it costs literally so much money, and you have to be backed. You have to be backed by these super PACs. That's atrocious. It needs to be more grassroots. And I know we're at such a large scale as a nation now where that's asking for a miracle, unfortunately. But that's how you purify politics. If you're running for Congress, you're running for a district in a state. You should only be eligible to receive donations in that state. The fact that we had, like, example, Zoran Mamdani, mayor of New York City. Why was he receiving donations from California? That's a thing. That's a fact. I made a video on that all those months ago. Why was he receiving donations? That shouldn't be allowed. He's running for New York City mayor. His donations should have been out of New York City. He gave more donations out of other states than he did from New York City. That shouldn't be allowed. If you're running for wherever you're running, whatever district or city, if you're mayor, Congress, whatever, that's where your donation should be coming from. Not from super PACs, not from big pharma. It should literally be prohibited. And the fact that it's not is atrocious, and that's what's ruining our politics. I do want to influence politics with my money. That's not hip. No, it's not a contradiction. You should be able to donate to politicians you support in your local areas. What are you not understanding here? This should be a no-brainer. I'm not trying to form a super PAC. George Soros, I don't think George Soros has a super PAC. I made a George Soros reference halfway playfully, by the way. But you should absolutely be able to donate. There is a restriction on the amount you can donate, but that's bypassed a lot of times by these super PACs. Super PACs should not be allowed. That easy. What I want to ultimately do is not only use my money to support politicians in the legal sense, the correct sense, the maximum donation amount, which shouldn't be a fortune, but on top of that, you raise awareness for these people. That's the real goal of this channel at some point in time down the line. Raise awareness for the good ones. You have social media pages out there that do that already. We need that to continue. Yeah, Israel first versus America first. Listen, I say this all the time. This is my stance on Israel. I don't care if they exist as a country, but I also just don't care about the Middle East at all. And I am America first. I do get mad when Trump focuses too much on foreign policy over in the old world there. I've made videos on that before. You should check it out. It's like, that's the old world. It's called that way it's called the old world for a reason. It's outdated. It shouldn't be our concern. It shouldn't be. We need to focus on ourselves. That's what needs to happen. This is America first. It's about Americans. It's about us. It's about domestic policy. It's about controlling our Western hemisphere. It's not about the Middle East anymore. That place, if you believe in the Bible, that place is promised to be a hellhole until the return of Christ, pretty much. So it's like, at what point do you just write it off as a lost cause? Ukraine, Russia, for the same reasons. It's like, I'm so outspoken against Ukraine. That's for a reason. It's like, God bless the people of Ukraine. Truly. God bless them. God bless the people over in the old world. I'm not unsympathetic to their cause, but we can't keep sending money over there. We just can't. Not right now. Our allies don't treat us well to begin with, let alone the fact that our country's falling to the wayside as it is. Our own people are suffering. We have homeless veterans. We have Gen Z, can't find a job. They literally took the black pill. They don't think they're ever going to own a home. It's like, that has to improve. If we don't focus on ourselves here, we shouldn't be focusing on other countries. Subscribe right now if you agree with that messaging. Be sure to give the video a like. I'm going to sign off from here, guys. I appreciate everybody who tuned in today, even the trolls. I don't have time to read all the comments here, so it's like, if you're trolling, I could see this guy, this incel won't reproduce. So hey, listen, listen. I'm just trying to save myself for my Elon Musk sex robot, okay? Don't knock it, all right? I'm a virtuous man, and I want to save myself for the Elon Musk sex robot. I think that's only right. That's just what it is. So don't call me an incel, all right? I'm trying to be virtuous over here. Nevertheless, I'm going to sign off from here, guys. I appreciate all of you. Anybody who subscribed, appreciate you. Be sure to turn on notifications so you're notified every time I go live on this channel and every time I post, because I'll still be making videos. I just subscribed, says Thomas Knapp. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. All right. All right, guys. Have a good one. Glory to America. God bless the USA. And God bless you.